make sure you have a good finance broker or lender, and make sure you can see that project through to completion. If by now you haven't secured the development site, now is probably a good time to do it. From here we're going to be talking about the mechanics of property development, and the first step here is the division of the land. To help us with this, we're going to be speaking with Millet from Fyfe Surveying. Chris is a licensed surveyor with many years of experience. Chris, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Chris, we've worked together in the past and you've been a licensed surveyor for some time now. Can you tell me a bit about what you do?
I've been involved in the development industry for the last 30 years or so, and for the last 15 or 20 years as a licensed surveyor. As a director of Fyfe Surveyors for the last 15 years, I've been involved in some very large subdivision projects of a few hundred allotments, and very many 1 into 2 blocks, that the person off the street would come in and just ask me to look after through the land division process.
Chris, does a licensed surveyor need to be involved in the land division?
Yes, a licensed surveyor who's undertaken specific training for boundary surveys needs to be involved to peg the property as required by the law, and is normally the agent for the land division to set the whole thing up at the start and control the process to make sure it goes down the right path.
Can you lodge a land division application over land that someone else owns?
Yes, you can lodge a land division application over any parcel of land, and it generally occurs quite often when there's a gap between the settlement process and the purchase of the land, so that the land division can actually be started before you settle and the titles are changed.
Okay. What would be the value of that to a developer?
The advantage is mainly in the timing, because the timing process means that you can actually get the start of the land division underway and not have to wait that extra month or 2 months, and that delays the end of the process.
Okay. And I guess from the point of view of deciding whether you'd want to buy the property or not, would that be of value?
Look, I guess you'd normally make sure that you did want to buy that property and had signed a contract, but then instead of waiting until that contract is settled, you can actually start the process of the land division.
In South Australia, we have community titles and Torrens titles. Can you tell us what the difference between the two is?
Okay, yes, there are 2 different types of titles. Community title is different in a number of aspects to Torrens title, whereby there must be some common land and a community corporation for a community title, whereas Torrens title doesn't require either of those 2. The community title is also different in that SA Water will look at the aspects of servicing in a different way and will not require that they have completely separate sewer systems, and that leads to a cheaper cost for a community title as against the Torrens.
What about from the point of view of resale value though? Do you generally tend to see that a Torrens titled property would have a higher resale value than a community titled property?
Generally you would see that Torrens title would be a higher resale, but community title has become more common in the last couple of years, and there's certainly not as large a difference over the last few years as there was when community title was introduced.
Chris, would it be fair to say that when someone's preparing a feasibility study, that they need to consider whether the properties that they're going to be developing will be on a community title or a Torrens title, as that could potentially affect the resale value of the property?
It's definitely something people need to look at closely, because it will affect in some way, but community title is definitely suited to some particular sites, and definitely in particular sites that don't have direct access to public road and can be developed by using a private driveway.
Chris, who approves the land division and what do the conditions of approval mean?
The council for the area would normally make the decision on any land division application, except in some cases where the Development Assessment Commission takes over that responsibility. But it's nearly all cases the council for the area will make the decision and approve or not the land division. That will also come with conditions of approval to say we also require these things to be completed to make sure that they get the desired outcome on it.
Now, the Development Assessment Commission is involved in land division. What is their role?
The Development Assessment Commission is the central body for all land divisions throughout the state. It was set up by the state government to administer every function of land division except for the approval process. So they administer everything that the council doesn't do as far as conferring with other state bodies, and they are the people that undertake all of the initial examination of land division, and then they send it out to the council to make their decision on, and also to SA Water, Transport SA and any other body that they feel should be involved as a referral, such as could be the EPA.
So the Development Assessment Commission essentially orchestrates everything that happens?
That's right. They're the body that is given a responsibility to ensure that the whole process works for the state, rather than it falling down somewhere because the council or one of the bodies doesn't actually do their role. They ensure that the whole system works from start to finish.
In land division, is a proposed building plan required?
Where a proposed lot in a plan of subdivision meets the council criteria under the development plan for that area, a building plan isn't usually required by the council, but where the allotment is going to be of a smaller size, and that is quite common because blocks are broken up into quite smaller blocks, you get the council normally asking for some sort of building plan to show that the house and the block can actually work together.
Okay, so I guess that's to ensure that a new block of land isn't created and that nothing can be built on it.
That's correct. The council wants to ensure that the house design allows for all of the relevant setbacks and private open space, and ensures that the dwelling will work okay for the new owner.
And essentially complies to the development plan for that particular council.
Yes, and also the building requirements for that council as well.
Right. Because in a development, can the existing land and/or house or shed be retained?
Normally, the existing house and sheds associated with that can be retained if they're on one allotment, but they would not be allowed to remain if there was a shed that is created on the allotment that doesn't have the existing house. That would need to be cleared from the site.
Okay. So Chris, I guess from a developer's point of view, they need to keep in mind when they're cutting up the pieces of land that the existing house doesn't actually encroach on the new pieces of land that they're creating.
They have to be very careful when they first start the land division process to ensure that the existing house is taken into account as far as the position on the land and where the new boundaries will be in relation to that.
And as a part of that, it's also things like private open space that need to be considered. You can't necessarily have the back of the house sitting right up against the fence line, can you?
No, that's right. You do need to have some private open space at the rear and sometimes at the side of the house, and you need to take that into account, determining the new boundaries and the offsets from the existing house.
Now, Chris, you've been doing this for some time now. What are some of the pitfalls that people may want to consider?
One of the pitfalls that we have come across is SA Water. In some cases, the SA Water mains don't actually go across the front of the block that's going to be subdivided, and for the new allotment it means an extension of the mains from one side to be able to service the other side of the blocks. So that can add quite considerable cost to a land division, and it is a good idea to have a look at the SA Water information before you decide on buying a property to determine whether that's one of the things that could affect your costs.
I certainly know of a few areas down the southern part of metropolitan Adelaide where this is the case, and some houses just don't have running sewers past the front of the house.
That's right. Some areas don't have any servicing as far as sewer at all. There are different cases where the sewer runs in some particular areas but not in others, and then some other parts that there's no servicing at all for the whole of the suburb. Another area that we've found is council conditions of approval. Council will request certain items to be undertaken if they consider that it's required for that property, and in particular if there's a carport or a garage that needs to be built because the garage is on the part of the property that is going to be cleared, they will ask for that to be built as part of the land division approval. It needs to be finished before they'll issue titles, and also adds additional cost because you've got to actually have that built. I think you actually mentioned to me easements. You can build some structures such as a pergola over an easement, but you can't build a dwelling. So that there's some structures that are considered to be reasonable to be able to take down if required, but not a house.
Yeah. Chris, thanks so much for your time.
No worries, Angelo.
Thank you.